Hey, welcome back to the State of Love and Trust. It's episode 313, and this week we return to our recording studio series with David Catching, the owner of Rancho de la Luna Studio in Joshua Tree. This is a conversation you do not want to miss. I'm going to say three things: Arabian Stallion, wind chimes, Anthony Bourdain's risotto. You got to tune in to find out, and it's all next with our very kind and generous guest.
Hello, I'm David Catching from Rancho de la Luna Recording Studio in Joshua Tree, California. And you are listening to the greatest voices of all time. The State of Love and Trust. That's what you're listening to. And I love you.
Welcome to another episode of the State of Love and Trust podcast. I'm one of your two hosts, Jason Kerepesi, and alongside me, as always, is
Paul Ghiglieri. Happy to be here.
Paul's
as always. Wine. As always.
Well, are you just trying to confirm that sometimes I might think that you're not happy to be here? We shouldn't question each other like that.
We shouldn't.
No.
We should have what's the word? A more trusting relationship at this point.
People are going to start making assumptions now.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. Everything's fine. You know what's really fine, as I try and segue out of that, is liking down below here on YouTube and subscribing to the channel if you're not already. If people don't subscribe like they used to, you got to subscribe.
How do we incentivize you to rate, review, and subscribe on your preferred podcast platform of choice? Feed that algorithm. Otherwise, it just withers away like a desert plant. Sans water.
Oh.
Was that a segue? I don't know.
That was a segue. Anybody who chose not to read or understand the title of this episode is like, oh, we're going to the desert. We are going to the desert. You know why? We're having a chat. It's the episode 2 or series. It's episode 2 of the series of our recording studio check-ins or investigations. What would you call this, Paul?
I don't know. Profiles? I don't know.
Ooh, profile. That's nice.
Profiles. Huh?
Deep dive, I think. So we started this series all about the recording studios around the world that we think are important and significant in the world of the rock and roll. And we did London Bridge Studio, very famous up there north of Seattle and Shoreline. And this is the second iteration of this. And we're going out to the desert. We're going out to Joshua Tree to Rancho de la Luna. You might be saying, I don't know that I've heard of that. Oh, you have. You just don't realize it. And if you haven't, we're going to learn you here with its owner, David Catching. And before we get to David, I have to remind you that if you do like what we do here on the pod, either on YouTube or the listening only, there are links below on our social medias that you can check out to support the show through either Patreon or buying some cool merch. And we really do appreciate that. The shilling is over.
Absolutely.
And it's on to the conversations, Paul, with David Catching. This week's guest isn't just a studio owner or producer. He's the ultimate host, a legendary guitarist, and the guardian of the high desert's musical spirit. Over the last 30 plus years, his studio, Rancho de la Luna, has been the setting and character in the creation of countless records and friendships. Please welcome to the show, David Catching.
Hey, I want to bring you to parties to introduce me when I'm hitting the scene, man. That's pretty tight right there.
Yeah, you could come out to Ric Flair's music at them.
Yeah, man. I saw Ric Flair wrestle a few times. I'm from Memphis originally, so that was the home of
NWA 70s. Back in the
the 70s wrestling. Yeah, we used to go to wrestling matches. I think it was either 75 cents or $1 to get in at the Mid-South Coliseum, which is where we saw all the big bands too. I saw my first concert I went to by myself at the Mid-South Coliseum, where my mom dropped me and my friends off, was Alice Cooper, Welcome to My Nightmare tour, 1975.
Oh, we love it.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the Iron Claw?
The Iron Claw, yes, of course. I saw the Iron Sheik.
Oh, well, the Iron Claw is a true story about like
the Von Erich brothers.
The Von Erich brothers.
Oh, yeah,
and that
I
whole
saw them.
Southern wrestling regional thing. And
yeah, man, I definitely saw the Von Erichs wrestle and the Iron Sheik, and I saw Andy Kaufman wrestle.
Wow.
I saw the match where he got his neck broken and everything. Yeah, Jerry Lawler.
People that are just jumping into the podcast, 5 minutes in, and like, what the hell are we talking about?
Why are they talking about wrestling?
Yeah, exactly. Let's just do the entire show about wrestling. No, just kidding. We got to dive in. There's so much to talk to you about. Rancho de la Luna. It is not just famous because it's a building in the desert, David. It's famous because something happens to artists when they arrive there. So like when someone pulls up the dirt road for the first time, what do they usually think Rancho is, and what do they discover it actually is?
I think they think it's just going to be a funky studio, and then when they come in, they realize that it's a funky studio. And and they're stuck in the middle of nowhere, and they better get it together and record some cool stuff. There used to not be a whole lot out here, not that many people lived out here, especially artists. There was our friend Victoria Williams. She was the first artist that I knew that moved out here. Mm-hmm. And then my partner Fred Drake, my studio partner Fred Drake, moved here in 92, and then I used to come visit him because I was coming out to the park a lot. And then in 92, he moved out here, so I started coming out to visit him. And then in 93, he asked me to start a studio with him, and we were the only studio at the time. I think there was one other studio, but it was more like a voiceover kind of studio that somebody was doing children's books. So they were mostly voiceovers. So from 93 till a little past 2000, we were the only place out here. But now it's, especially during COVID, it got really popular to get out of the city and come out here. And a lot of people bought houses because it was reasonable. And, about 10 or 15 years ago, a lot of people started moving out. My neighbors, Christopher and Heather Thorne, have an amazing studio that they built next door called Fireside Sound. And we do a lot of projects together, and they're just the coolest, and their place is magnificent. And we're right next door to each other. So we have lots of dinner parties and do a lot of projects together.
Yeah, that's nice.
Amazing.
Yeah,
right. Just a lovely desert community that now has a Rivian charging station. So
exactly, man. I mean, if I had one, I would charge it there all the time.
Yeah. I gotta ask you, Dave. You watch artists arrive, and they're carrying pressure, deadlines, expectations, and sometimes I would imagine even just like personal baggage too. What does the desert strip away first?
It seems to strip away a lot of the ego, strangely enough. Oh. You get out here and you're not surrounded by, a lot of people have never been here before, that's the coolest thing, is when somebody's never been to the desert and they're just getting their first taste of not having a million places to go. And and in the old days, it would be mostly cooking here because there weren't, a lot of places to go eat. So you would basically start the session and eat. And so it was very, very mellow and just hanging here. And basically it still is, but now we've got like one of the best restaurants in the world called La Copine. And the owners, Claire and Nikki, Claire Wadsworth is someone that both Christopher and I we've worked on her album, which is amazing. And they're super cool. And then there's the Des with our friends Chris and Charlie. And now there's these really great eateries, but still mostly people, they get here and they're having so much fun. Like everything else is just secondary, but there's not a lot of, even now, and especially when we first started, there was not a lot to do. So it really did strip away your ego. You couldn't go be somebody famous because no one gave a shit. And you couldn't, you couldn't go very many places at all. Pappy and Harriet's has always been there, and the Joshua Tree Saloon. But those are really the only two bars that have been a constant. Other places have come and gone, but and the Palms is really great out in Wonder Valley, but that's 45 minutes away, so that's a whole nother thing.
So folks when they come to Rancho, they are, I mean, I don't want to say stuck, but they are there. They're experiencing the whole thing. And so in that way, it's not a conventional recording studio, and it's a home. It's your home. So
it is my home, yeah.
Where recording and creating happen to happen, and I think that in and of itself creates its own aura or its own vibe that I think is imperfectly perfect, if I can borrow that phrase.
I appreciate that, but yeah, kind of.
Can you tell us about a specific time that one of those unique imperfections of that space, it could be a floor creak or like a fly buzzing across someone's face when trying to do a solo, whatever that might be, affected the process in like a really magical way?
Strangely, when you go into the tracking room, you kind of lock these doors that close. You have to kind of lock it. And that noise pops up on a lot of records. And yes. There's some really great wind chimes that people have donated over the years. And typically they are somewhat in tune with almost everything that we record. So they get put on a lot of things as well.
That's outstanding.
It's always someone getting a little, like into it and like, I think we need these chimes. Have they ever been on anything? It's like pretty much everything. They've been on everything.
But they're inspiring.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. So I mean, that's outside the walls though. So if the walls of Rancho could tell one story though, that I guess captures the spirit of the place, not necessarily the biggest artist or the most famous record. What story would you want those walls to tell?
Oh man, there are so many.
Gotta pick one, Dave.
Every session is so great and so fun, no matter what you're working on. We did one of our first things we recorded was our friends Caius. And I made some mushroom margaritas, and we were all having a really great time. And Fred decided that it would be really funny to ride his horse Cashmere into the studio, which was fucking hilarious until the horse really didn't like being in here. And it was trying to get out, and there's not a lot of room.
Yeah.
A giant horse, Arabian stallion, bucking and trying to get out. So that's a good story. That was a fun night.
You're probably the only recording studio in America that can tell that story.
I have to ask you, hold on, about this horse real quick.
Yes.
Is there any documentation of this horse being in the house?
No.
Damn.
No, because this was 1994 probably, and either 94 or 95, so no one had phones or cameras or anything.
All right.
Well, I can say probably definitively that you are the owner of the only studio likely in the world, but certainly in America, that had a bucking Arabian stallion inside of it.
One thing you can do is when you interview anyone else that was in the room at the time, they will confirm that for you.
Okay, fair enough. I love that.
I'm just going to believe you at your word.
Yeah, I try not to lie, so we'll keep it at that.
I don't know. Your beard's pretty long, man.
That's true. It is. I used to have hair on my head. Now it's just on my chin.
You're like Wooly Willy. They just went whoop.
Yeah, man. Exactly. The little magnet.
Yeah. Our younger viewers and listeners have no idea what we're talking about. It's okay.
No, I'm old as hell, man. I just turned 65, which is like centuries.
Well, you have spent decades not only on this earth, but also creating an environment at Rancho where people feel comfortable taking risks. What do you think musicians need more today? Do they need better tech? Do they need more time? Do they need permission to fail? Or is it something else entirely?
Well, from most of the people I work with, people need more time because, art and music especially got devalued so hard over the last 20 years that almost every session I do is self-funded, and people are working on, like a lot of people are trying to put out an album in a week because it's the old catch-22 of you've got to have something to play for people.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to sell it, and it's going to come out of your pocket, and most people don't have a lot of money to put into their art. So, we're sometimes trying to do albums in 3 days, which means that it's most likely just almost just like a live recording at that point. You're just you don't have many risks you can take. And one of the best things about Rancho is that Brian next door and myself and Christopher and our friend Joey Castillo, we all live around each other, and typically we're working on music together when I'm not recording. So everything gets left set up. And since we've been in the studio for so long, we move really, really fast. And, my engineer that built the studio, John Russo, he and I work together so much that we work really fast, and, there's mics everywhere. So we're ready to roll. So when people come in for 3 days, we can be rolling in an hour, like actually recording great sounding things within an hour, which most studios, you would take all your gear, you'd have to set it up, then you have to mic it up, and then you'd have to hit things for a while. And, the first day would just be getting sounds. So we're ahead of that. But getting back to your question is that, yeah, people need more time, and everybody's just struggling to do whatever they can. And, you have to have something to play people if you want to play out, but it's getting harder and harder for people to go out and play and to make records because, you need to make some money to be able to do it.
Do you think that this lack of time actually forces some musicians and bands to actually be very, very tight as a band because they can't afford to tinker and figure it out in the studio? So they come prepared, ready to rock, or no?
I would say, about 80% of the bands do come in here ready to go. So a lot of people come out here to write, to just use the gear. That's another thing is after 33 years, we've amassed a lot of instruments and keyboards, effects, drums, whatever. So we do have a lot of stuff that, say you're coming from somewhere pretty far away, you wouldn't have to bring things. I mean, you're welcome to bring whatever you want, but I think 60 amplifiers here and 75 guitars and hundreds of pedals and 50 keyboards and tons of mics. Come on out, come out and visit and check it out yourselves. It's a pretty tiny spot, but we get great tones. The drum room should not sound as good as it does, but it's one of the best sounding drum rooms, and it's just a small room that's got tons of stuff. And I mean, the piano's in there and a couple of amps and a lot of guitars and basses. So, but to get back to it, it's really hard for people to get into. I mean, in the 90s and up through 2005, probably, people were still getting $100,000, $200,000 to make a record. So you could be at a studio for 5 months, 6 months, and really take a day or two to get tones. And, when you're going to, I mean, I don't know if that's necessary, but, it was nice for trying different things,
Yeah. It's interesting. I hadn't considered that dynamic. You know what I mean? It's one thing people go into a studio and they want to record an album that they've previously written, but to go there and say, no, I need the creative space, and I can't help but think that that's directly tied to the location itself, that being Joshua Tree. So I have to ask, like, people they often talk about studios as places where records are made. But it sure seems like some studios become places where something more than that happens, almost like where identities are formed. Have you ever watched someone arrive at Rancho as one artist and then leave as another?
Absolutely, many times. I mean, the Arctic Monkeys were definitely one band that was amazing from the get-go. From the first time that Josh played me their demos, he said that they wanted to come to his studio to record with him, and he thought it would be a good idea to bring them out here first, just to really take them out of their whole, English, countryside. They were very young kids. And I think the way that we work here is wildly different from most studios. I wouldn't say every studio, but like if you go to Capitol Records, that's a whole thing. You're bringing all your gear, and it's going to be, on the clock, and it's going to be inside a place with no windows other than the control room window. But, and we're way more into having fun and goofing around and having weird things that are it used to be a lot more gear that needed repair, but these days I kind of caught up on the repair, so everything kind of works a little better now. But back then, I had lots of stuff that was malfunctioning, and that would totally lead to a cool song with a half-broken keyboard that was missing one note, so it would do something crazy.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, Arctic Monkeys was definitely one that I saw. I mean, not like wholly changed, but definitely, they got to experience something they probably wouldn't have experienced if they would have stayed in England and worked with someone at a fancy studio there.
Speaking of getting away from civilization here where I'm in the Valley of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Gotta ask about the Desert Sessions. You brought them up before we got going here. Josh Homme, Queens of the Stone Age, of course, said of these collaborations, for me, the Desert Sessions is more than the playing. It's the introducing of people to each other. I'll be back in an hour and check in on you guys.
Yeah.
What is a moment where you saw magic between strangers manifest in real time?
I saw that every minute of whatever was going on, but one of the craziest was I think it was 11 and 12 or 10 and 11. I can't remember which ones, but it was the one where PJ Harvey was here and Dean Ween and Chris Goss and a bunch of different people. And Josh Freese was here. Twiggy Ramirez was here. Alan was here. And I just remember at one point, Chris and PJ went next door to the house I was living at, and they wrote a song while we were recording a song with Josh Freese and me and I think Brian and one other person. And then Alan and Dean Ween were on the front porch writing a song. And Twiggy was on the back porch writing a song. And that day we recorded completely 5 songs.
Damn.
And the song that Chris and PJ did, There Will Never Be a Better Time, they came in and we set up 2 microphones and got levels and said, you're rolling. And they did this amazing song in one take. And it was a unanimous standing ovation from all of us, because I don't know if you're familiar with that song. It's just a guitar and PJ singing, and it was pretty mind blowing. But yeah, that day getting 5 complete songs done was, and one of the songs she sang later too. And what happened is one of the microphones was malfunctioning, so I set up a cool little sequence on one of my Pro One synthesizers, and I was playing it through the amp, and Josh came in. He's like, dude, what the fuck is that? And I thought he was pissed, I'm like, dude, I'm just checking a mic, I'll be done in a second. He's like, no, lay that shit down. That's fucking amazing. And that's when Josh Freese and Brian came in, and we laid down that whole song, and then PJ came in and sang it. It was a pretty incredible day. That day was definitely one of the most productive days we've ever had here, like writing and recording 5 different songs.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
That's awesome.
It's funny, listening to you talk about these experiences. I mean, you referenced the Arctic Monkeys. I remember seeing them in LA back in like 2013 or 14 or something. And, they did part of that album AM there at your studio.
Yeah.
And that was like a real departure for them in terms of what they had been doing. I mean, like this album had like desert rock, psychedelic rock, blues, hard rock, some metal, R&B, some funk, little elements of soul. And you were talking about, let's just get weird. Like I could see how that played a role, obviously, in how that album really evolved their sound to the point where, this guy's on stage I think it's on with the Forum, and he's got like, leather jacket on. I mean, it's just like total rock. Alex Turner's total rock star. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was not the Alex Turner that I remember from like their first 4 albums. You know what I mean?
No. And the interesting thing about that is they had done Humbug here.
Yeah.
And then toured that. And actually, when I was in Eagles of Death Metal with Brian, we toured England with them for the Humbug tour.
Okay.
And it was huge stadiums, like huge. And it was also, they had like one of the greatest light shows I've ever seen in my life. And we became really good friends. The first time they were here, my friend Hutch, he's a world-renowned sound man. He worked with Queens for the first 20 years of their existence. And he worked with Caius, and he worked with Jack White on Dead Weather and Jack White's solo stuff and Raconteurs. And I could name a million bands he's been with, but he and I were living in the house next door. And every night during Humbug, we would cook dinner for them and hang out. And every night we picked out a different band to turn them on to. So
cool.
Tonight we're going to have Alice Cooper night, and we're going to cook steaks and potatoes. And then the next night it might be, we're going to do post-punk. But before they left, we made them, we got an iPod and filled it with, thousands of our favorite party songs, right?
Outstanding.
So after the Humbug tour, Alex came out with with a friend, and they recorded and wrote some stuff. And then they came back to write Humbug, and they came out, and they were here for maybe 5-6 weeks writing. And, they were taking it really easy, and, they had so much success. I mean, every album had done better and better, and they started with like one of the biggest albums ever. So they were just having fun and creating here. And I actually played on some of the demos because they would be like, hey, you want to fuck around? And it's like, yeah, man, are you kidding? And then, but so they wrote a lot of AM here, which is makes me very, very happy. They just informed me that it's the 9th most streamed album of all time.
Really?
Oh, I mean, it's a fantastic record, man. I mean, I can see like Fireside or Arabella being recorded just like literally outside the studio underneath the Joshua Tree by a fire or something.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, I mean, just the spirit of the place. I have to, Fred Drake's spirit just seems woven into every conversation that is had about Rancho, but
absolutely,
I want to look at it from a little bit different of an angle. Like, can you talk to us about Fred's legacy and stewardship? Like, what's something about Fred's philosophy that still shapes decisions that you make today?
Pretty much everything, because Fred and I met. I had a band called the Ringling Sisters with a bunch of really great friends in LA. And we did an album with Lou Adler, who did the Rocky Horror Picture Show and Up in Smoke. He did Mamas and the Papas, a million. And we did a great record with him. And the day our album came out was a bloodbath for A&M Records, our label. So everybody got fired. This album is the only album that he ever worked on that wasn't a million seller. The only thing he's ever worked on. And at one point, he said he was going to move out to Joshua Tree. He had found a house, and he's like, yeah, if you ever need a place to stay, because he knew I came out a lot. And I was like, sure, man. And I started visiting him because Joshua Tree is a great day trip, because back then it was about 2 hours to get out here. Now it's about 2.5, 3 hours, but it was easy. And so I started hanging out with him. And, he was very ill. He had a couple of, he was HIV positive since the early 80s, and he had cancer as well.
Wow.
And no one lived life as much as he did. He'd wake up in the morning and make a pot of coffee and roll up a couple of joints. Once that pot of coffee was gone and the joints were gone, he would go out on his horse and ride around. And I started staying here. And then I moved to New Orleans, and Fred called, and he said that Dean was selling his studio and asked if I wanted to be a partner in a studio out here. And although I didn't think I would ever be coming, I figured at some point I would be coming to Joshua Tree, but probably not for a long time. But Dean, since he knew us both so well, he said he would just let us make payments on this gear.
Cool.
And it was I think it was $3,000 or $4,000. So I just sent Fred a check for $2,000, not really thinking about it. It just seemed like a thing to do. And about 6 months later, we had a fire, a gas leak at the restaurant, and the building wasn't insured. So I lost my business there. And right at the same time, Hutch called me to go on the road with Caius because they needed a guitar tech. And I'd never been to Europe. I thought that sounded really exciting. And I didn't have a place to live. I didn't have a business. And I figured once we got back from Europe, I could come visit Fred and we could figure out what we're going to do with this studio. But in the meantime, Fred's friend had brought his studio out here. And then we got a call from Daniel Lanois asking if he could bring his gear here and leave it for a year or so while he was doing Bob Dylan and U2 and Willie Nelson and whoever else he was doing that year. And that's how Fred and I really got started, because we started using his gear to make albums. So I know this is a long story to get to your original question, but that's kind of when Fred and I really started working together. Just before that, we started our band together called Earthlings, and watching him work, and just like he really took his time and did things right. And one of the funniest things is when we were working on Earthlings, I learned a lot about recording from Fred, and one of the things I learned is he would be like, yeah, that guitar part was great. I'm just going to erase half of it because that's all we need. We don't need this. And I was like, well, we could just mute it during mix. And he's like, fuck that, man. Commit. Like you got to commit to that shit. And I at first I was like, holy shit, man, he's just erasing half of what I just played. But then you hear it back and you're like, yeah, that's exactly what we needed to do. And it was just like his nature was like the most relaxed, but fully, focused on what he was going to do.
Decisive.
Like, we're doing decisive. Exactly. Like, this is what we're doing. This is the right choice. We're going to take our time. In fact, let's roll another joint, get really stoned.
Just head on down the road somewhere.
Exactly.
You gotta go.
Yeah. And then at the time, it was really, really cheap to live out here. And if you went to the thrift stores, you could buy mid-century modern furniture for $5. So watching Fred's style out here, how the things he would buy at the swap meet, I'd go to the swap meet with him, and we'd see things. That we have this one painting I'll show you guys, even though it's going to make people sick moving around.
It's okay.
But we have this painting we call the Cowboy. I don't know if that's...
Oh, I see it.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's super cool.
So Fred really loved cowboy stuff. And we saw that painting, and we were at the swap meet, and he goes, we're like, how much for that painting? And I think the guy was like, that's $7. And we're like, oh, fuck. Would you take like two? And he's like, no, it's $7. Like, okay, thanks. And I remember walking away thinking like, fucking $7. Can you believe that? And Fred was like, yeah, it was pretty cool though. And I'm like, yeah, the frame was really cool. The painting was great, but $7, man, that's where does he think he is, And we keep walking. We're like, damn, that was a cool ass painting though, right? And I'm like, it's only like, I'll pitch in 4 if you pitch in 3. And he's like, I don't know, $7. And we were both like, let's just get it. That's going to be cool. And it's one of my favorite paintings of all time now. It's like every time I look at that, I think of Fred and that moment where we're deciding that $7 split between us is like, we can't buy that wicked piece of art. We're too broke. So that was another thing of Fred's, that like just his style of, the way he put together things and the way he had altars and the way he treated people. And the cool thing about Fred is people would just stop by all the time back then, because he was one of the few people anyone knew from the city. And, we're not that far off the main road. So people would just stop by all the time. And it was usually very, very good musicians. So it became a thing of like, all right, you're just going to stop by without calling. We need a guitar solo, so you're going to play guitar solo, or you're the greatest pianist, so you're going to sit down and you're going to play piano on our song. So his inclusion of just anyone coming by, it was never, because so many bands are, the Ramones are one of my favorite bands, but you can't see like Yngwie Malmsteen going like, man, let's have some beers with Jam. They'd be like, what? No way. But with Fred, it didn't matter. He was just, come on in and you're going to play on something now that you're here.
There's a musical entry fee.
Yeah. And, it's everything about him. He taught me everything about hosting and everything about recording. Everything I do every day, I think of him. I mean, every time I make coffee, I'm just like, this would have been one of 5 pots of coffee that Fred made. And, just everything. And he was just one of the funniest, coolest dudes, like amazing singer, songwriter. He could play drums. He could play guitar, piano, great singer, everything about it,
Wow. You're lucky to have known him.
Yeah. When you read about somebody, or you hear firsthand stories about somebody, it really paints a better picture of what they mean to those who are close to them. And to lose him in 2002 obviously must have been very difficult. And unfortunately, you experienced loss again some years later when you were touring, as you mentioned, with Eagles of Death Metal.
Yeah.
In Paris, the Bataclan, 2015, 89 folks inside the venue, 130 in total lost their lives. How has grief shaped the way that you run sessions now, or the way that you think about what Rancho is for?
I've had loss my whole life. When I was, I think I was 5-ish, my sister and I were staying with my grandmother. And I remember we were watching TV, and I remember I fell asleep. And when I woke up, she had passed away while she was talking to my sister. And so that was like an immediate, super close. A lot of people don't lose people till they're a little bit older, but that was like, I was actually sleeping right next to her when she passed away. And we all leave, we all leave, no matter where we're going or what happens later, we all leave. And it's hard to mark loss by time for me, because what is time? I'm 65. I was 18 a year ago. It seems like a year, and it seems like 100 years ago. And I accept loss of loved ones because we all are going to go. So I try not to grieve too hard. I just try to live with the love that I had for these people, and continue, making them live in my heart and my mind, and by stories like this and talking about things. I think I strayed pretty far from your.
Well, not really, because it's you take this in and you push out love for them in many ways. Obviously, does it affect the sessions ever? Does it shape how you might approach a conversation with a musician? Maybe
it does. I mean, obviously, I'm super sad I just lost my friend Jennifer Finch, who was a friend to so many. Like she and I met in the mid '80s. Just before she started playing in L7, and over the years, since I moved out here, there's a lot of people I haven't seen very often, in 25 years, because I've been out here solid for 25 years, 30 years, roughly. And, but it doesn't mean you don't think about them more, or all the fun times you had. And, when I did see them the last time they played out here at Pappy and Harriet's, and they came by and we hung out and we talked about doing something here, because we're still all friends and we see each other. It's always great. But I try not to let grief consume me. Like I said, it's something that we all are going to face, and you never know when or where. I've lost so many friends, but I haven't really lost them because I had them in my life, and I think about them all the time. And it makes me sad that they're not here, that I can't call them or just go visit and have a lunch or whatever. But it makes me very happy that I ever knew them at all.
It seems like every time something happens at Rancho, it's like you could qualify it. It's just a good hang. It's just a good hang, right? And Jason mentioned this earlier. Rancho's not only your recording studio, but it's also your home. And I guess in that spirit, like the line between work and hanging out often blurs. So has there ever been a moment where that blurred line changed how a record turned out, for better or for worse?
That's a good question. I don't think anything's ever turned out worse. I've had only one or two sessions that didn't go as planned because of the people working here. Like maybe they were too young and they were too focused on what they were supposed to do. I would like to think that they all benefited from the fact that it is more laid back and easygoing, yet at the same time, we can work as fast as possible as well.
Right.
I would like to think that people have only benefited. The only one or two sessions that I had that were kind of a pain in the ass were because people were a pain in the ass. Okay. And they wouldn't let go, and and just kind of go with it and have fun. But
somehow their ego made it through the arches of the entryway.
They did. And the one band in particular, they were very young, and for some reason they just wouldn't let go and have fun.
Okay.
I would say it's probably, at least from my perspective, it would be a lot of fun to walk in there with the litany of guitars and amps that you mentioned, and the pedals and the whole shebang, all the recording equipment, and it's all that's been there. It's been accumulated over the years at Rancho. Is there a particular piece of gear, though, that seems to have a bit of magic in it that finds its way onto almost every recording? And why do artists,
besides the wind chimes?
Besides the wind chimes,
and so many pieces of gear, so many. I've got guitars that are on most album, and the Gretsch drum kit has been on 85% of all the sessions.
Whoa.
Unless like the Arctic Monkeys use their own kits both different times. They were completely different than the kit here. For desert sessions, we would use two kits, but it always got used. Only a few that, but those drums are magic, and most people use those. We have a few basses that people use. Brian, up until recently, left his 57P bass here, and that got used a lot, and that was a very magical instrument. And there's definitely some amps, my old Fender Princeton that I've had since the 80s gets used on everything. And now the new Valhalla amps that we're working with, they're getting used on everything. They're very magical, and they sound only like them. But yeah, there's so many magical things. It's really hard to pinpoint anything.
Does anybody ever say this has a bit of something in it? There's got to be a reason why people keep coming back to one or two of them besides just the tone sounds nice. It's got to inspire something, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have one guitar. I have two guitars that I bought in 1978, and one is Gibson Les Paul double cutaway that a place in Memphis called Strings and Things. They made 5 of them. Whoa. And they made them out of Gibson Les Pauls. And Ace Frehley bought one, and Jeff Beck bought another, and Pat Travers bought one, and the guitar player from America.
And Johnny Winters has the last one.
No, I have the last one. So that one is one that people gravitate to because it's beat to hell and it looks cool, and people, and and when they like, what's this? It's like, that's my favorite guitar that I own, and they're like, oh, okay, I got to use that one for sure.
It's got Dave's juju all over it. I got to use that.
Yeah, and I'm so lucky. Like after traveling with, touring with Queens and Eagles and Earthlings, and every band that I've played with, like so many people have given me effects pedals that they make, and everybody from Earthquaker Devices and Dr. No to like a million different friends make me these crazy pedals that no one else has. And that's another cool thing that people get into as well, just the fact that everything is out and at your fingertips. So it's not like, oh, you want the 57 Les Paul? Let me go into the gilded air-conditioned storage shed and grab the case and bring it. Like everything is just out, so you can.
My wife would absolutely hate that because when she sees things out, it drives her nuts, and then she'll just shove it away. She won't mind me saying this because I see it to her face all the time, but she'll just shove it away into things. I mean, where the hell did you put that? If I see it, I remember that it exists, and then I'll go use it. If I don't see it, my brain will forget, and then it's no good.
Well, it's pretty. It's pretty.
There's a
crazy
book about that, isn't there? Like you don't look at it for 7 days or something.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
I'm the one person that does not prescribe to that. I don't prescribe it or subscribe it either. But I have like drawers full of pedals, and I have closets full of. One story is there's so much stuff here that one day I was looking for something, and I got to the back of the closet, and I was like, wow, this looks like a Flying V case. And I pulled it out, and it was an early 70s Flying V. And it was missing parts, and I got it out, and I have no idea. It was right after Fred passed away. And I was like, I don't know where this came from. It's super cool. And then I started playing it in Eagles of Death Metal because I just started playing with them, and I was like, this is the perfect guitar for these guys. Like, like Brian Gregory from the Cramps. I'm like, I'm going to bring out the V for this stuff.
Yes.
And at one point, I got someone contacted me, and they're like, that's my Flying V. I left it there,
Who was this?
Whenever. And he was like, yeah, you can just use it, And I was like, oh, I prefer to buy it because I'm touring everywhere with this thing. And he's like, you know what, man? I don't really want to sell it, but just keep using it. And he lived in New York, and I said, I tell you what, I'm going to take it on this tour. You come out to the show. He was a fan of the band too, which I thought was really fun.
Oh man!
Whoa! But I said, come out to this show, and you could that night after the show, you can either sell it to me or I'll give it back because if something happens to it, then what I owe you. It's an early 70s Flying V. It could be $500. It could be whatever. And he was like, no, man, just use it. And I'm like, all right, well, that's our deal. So, I was getting ready to leave on this tour, and he called me up, and he's like, I thought about this. I bought that guitar in the late 70s with a Vox AC30 amp for $300. He's like, just give me $300 and we'll call it even, and I'll come to your show. So I ended up with this amazing Flying V that I used for years, and I'm looking at it right now.
I was just going to say, you still have this thing. Holy shit.
Oh, yeah. It broke into about 50 pieces, and my friend from Motor Ave Guitars put it back together, and it played great. But then my friend Gabriel from Echo Park Guitars built me a Flying V because I kept having to take it to him to have it worked on. And he was like, dude, I am so sick of working on this guitar. He's like, I'm going to build you something. And he built me a guitar that I traveled the world with forever, and it gets used on almost every session.
That's amazing. I love it.
So for somebody who may never record an album, right? Never play in a band on stage, never whip a flying V out and rock out in front of an audience, or maybe even never even visit Joshua Tree. What?
Oh, you have to.
Oh, I know, I have, but I'm saying for somebody who may not do any of these things, what's the lesson that Rancho de la Luna teaches about living a creative life? Like, what can everyone learn from a place that's so dedicated to creativity and possibility?
That you can have fun doing the things that you love and not worry while you're doing them.
I think I
don't know if that's a lesson. Actually, that's just kind of common sense, really. But
there was a song that said that. I think it was "Don't Worry, Be Happy."
Yes,
was the song. Yes,
exactly. Yeah, try not to let it bum you out. Just come over here and have fun and do great things.
Well, Dave, I mean, you've mentioned so many fantastic people coming through all these years. And in the spirit of Rancho, who is one artist you've yet to work with that you'd love to come out and vibe out with you, record, write, and what are you making them for dinner?
Oh, that's a good question.
Thank you.
I'd like to work with Brian Eno because he's been one of my biggest influences, and as well as Fred's, he was one of our favorites. And I mean, there's a list of 8,000,
Yeah.
But I think Brian Eno, because when I bought Here Come the Warm Jets, it opened up the sonic possibilities of albums. I mean, I'd heard the Beatles and stuff, but when I heard that album, it really spoke to me. And I still hear things on that album that I still hear weird things pop out of the speakers that I haven't heard, even though I've heard it a million times. So that, and I would probably make him the risotto that Anthony Bourdain showed me how to make. That took me about
bury the lead, Dave.
Yeah, there you go. A little bragging there. I would definitely probably make that for him because you don't want to throw meat into a first time. You don't know if people are meat eaters or not. So I try to cook mostly vegetarian, at least here. I have to do a lot of vegan cooking for bands, but I try to do a lot of veggies just because, if it's good, people are going to eat it, and no one gets upset about animals being harmed. I don't really eat a lot of meat myself, but I do occasionally.
Did you say it took you a year to learn how to make this risotto? Did I hear you correctly?
Yeah, because he made it like he was. Here's a funny story though.
This is a great ending, by the way. This is great.
I get a call from his management, saying, he's doing this show with Josh, and they're going to and they want to come to the studio, and they want to record a song for the thing, and they want to have a big dinner, and have Brian and Hutch over, and a few friends, and I'm like, yeah, that's great. And then I'm looking around my kitchen, I'm like, fuck, I'm using like the cheapest knives that a lot of my chef friends use, like they're the market knives that are like $9.99, throwaway stuff after a couple of years.
Dave, where's all the gear? I sold it to buy these knives. Anthony Bourdain's coming over.
and I'm looking around, I'm like, hey, this might be a good time to ask these guys to provide some cool stuff for here. And I hit them up, and I'm like, man, I really want him to cook. You think you guys can, get a hookup on like some pots and pans and knives and stuff? So he, and they were like, oh, he doesn't need any of that stuff, man. He'll be fine with whatever you got. And I'm like, oh man, all I have is like Walmart pots and pans and like a couple of cast iron skillets, and they're like, yeah, he'll be fine. I'm like, God damn it, man! I'm trying to get hooked up here. And
you were so smart about it. It didn't work.
It did not work, and I'm like, man, if Anthony Bourdain can't get me some cool cooking stuff, and then, man, if he didn't come in here and make the best risotto I've ever had in 30 minutes start to finish, using the worst pot you could possibly ever buy. And he killed it. And he was so cool. and you could tell he was a fan of Josh's and the studio because he loved Desert Sessions. He loved Lanigan, and he loved all this stuff. And I didn't really realize that because I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of his, but that was the one thing I did here where I was getting calls from everybody I knew, like, fucking Bourdain was at your house. Like, what the hell? I'm like, I know it's crazy, but I was hearing from people I hadn't heard from in 30 years. Like, man, you must be really doing good out there, man. Anthony Bourdain is coming out here and cooking for you guys. And
doesn't matter what artist records there.
Bourdain
cooks in your kitchen.
No, never mind, man. Paul McCartney. We got.
Exactly, man. It was pretty awesome. Like, my family were like, "Oh man, that's really cool."
Oh God.
Well, I look forward to at some point. I mean, we go out to Palm Springs all the time, so now I have an extra reason to come out and pop
Come on
in.
by, man. I mean, you're always welcome. I'm typically every once in a while I get a session where somebody's doing vocals and they ask me to, kind of keep it empty. But typically, people love meeting my friends or just cool people that are swinging by.
I don't know how cool Paul and I are, but I can't. My licks aren't as tasty as I think that they are, but I will bring some guacamole as my entry fee. I make a good guacamole, I think. So
I'm down with that, man. Yeah. I love some guacamole.
Okay, fair enough. Good trade. David Ketching, Rancho de la Luna. I'm so excited and thankful that you came on to talk about your story, the studio story. And we have this new series where we're going and trying to figure out how these famous studios across the world have helped inspire so many great records and people changing who they are and the people that are the stewards of these places. So you've really opened my eyes to the building and to you, and I appreciate it.
I really appreciate it too. I'm honored that you would choose me to talk to and just rattle off weird stories.
I love a good story.
We appreciate you having you on. We really do.
Thank you, guys.
David Ketching, Rancho de la Luna.
Thank you. Love to all.
What a lovely conversation with Dave. He is a human you want to keep talking to.
Absolutely. Let's leave Las Vegas and go to Joshua Tree instead, huh?
That's
funny. That's a desert trip that I think I might enjoy a little more.
Yes, that's true. We didn't ask him about this because I'm sure he's been asked about it before many times. But when I first realized what Rancho was when I watched the Foo Fighters 8-part series on HBO called Sonic Highways. There was a record that was made from that, and the whole idea was to create a new song in 8 important music cities across the country. And of course you think, well, Los Angeles is going to be one of those cities. Sure. Well, it was, and it wasn't, because they decided to do their song in the LA area out in Joshua Tree at Rancho de la Luna. And they had Joe Walsh guest on the guitar solo on that. So I go, oh, wow, this place looks really, really cool. And then I realized, oh, wait, I've known about this entire time through some of the records that I've enjoyed over the years. Oh, there it is. And you start deep diving and you go, holy shit, what is this place? We could have talked to David for, I got like 8 more questions on gear alone before we get into.
Easily. On top of the fact, he's just a stellar soul.
Yes. Welcoming, hospitable. And I don't know if you guys caught it. Maybe it didn't make the edit, but if it didn't, go to the Rancho Instagram and you'll see Dave's amazing dog, Chunk. That's right. His name is Chunk. So you're in good hands if you like really good mezcal, good people, good music, good times.
And Anthony Bourdain's risotto.
You may have to order that like a week in advance, like some of those steakhouses with the lava cakes and shit like that.
Yeah.
Anyways, if you enjoy this podcast as much as I do lava cake, then go ahead and rate the video. Yeah, rate the video. Subscribe to the channel here on YouTube and hit the bell for notifications. And if listening only, Paul,
you're going to rate, you're going to review, and hopefully you're going to subscribe on your preferred podcast platform of choice. Feed that algorithm the way a Joshua tree feeds off the desert landscape.
There you go. And if you want to support this show, of course, like I said at the top of the show, there is links below. There are links below for Patreon and for merch. Help support the show, keep us going. And by now, you know that there is us on the Ohana Storyteller stage. And I can't say who we're talking to yet or when it's happening, but we'll be there.
We'll be there
stage at some point. So if you're already buying tickets for Ohana, now's the time to get anything that's left over, because we're going to be there.
We're going to be there. And we want you to say hi to us so we can say hi back to you.
There you go. Until next week, you've been listening to or watching
The State of Love and Trust.